Hey, how's it going, Nostalgics? It's Ryan from the Nostalgia Factory here, back again with another review, this time covering the classic platformer and considered one of the greatest series of all time, with platforming at the very least, Crash Bandicoot.
But Dr. Cortex, we have not determined the cause of past failures.
Moron! This Bandicoot will be my general, and he will lead my Cortex commandos to world domination. This time I shall reign triumphant. We are closer than ever before. Quickly, into the vortex!
But Dr. Cortex, the vortex is not ready. We have no idea what it could do.
Failure again! Capture him!
Uh-oh!
Prepare the female Bandicoot.
Crash was released back in 1996 by the acclaimed Naughty Dog Studios, responsible for series such as Jak and Daxter and The Last of Us. This game revolutionized the platforming scene for being a relatively simple and straightforward game, although there have been games that have been made afterwards in the same series, like games made later on in the series, such as Crash 2, Cortex Strikes Back, and Crash 3 Warped, that were done a lot better in many different areas. But the real question of this game is, how does it hold up in today's age, and how did it kickstart off a fantastic platforming franchise?
What have I got?
This game is about as straightforward as you could possibly get, as platformers, especially from this era, aren't really known for their in-depth stories, but they work as a good background, and they work for the different boss battles and whatnot you encounter throughout the game. You're known as Crash Bandicoot, a mutated Bandicoot experimented on by Dr. N. Cortex, who was a mad scientist who wants to take over the world with a mutant army. And of course, you escape from the castle. Cortex captures your girlfriend in order to make her the new general, since Crash was supposed to be, but he left. So Crash is going to fight his way back through the entire Wumpa Island in order to get back to Cortex Castle, defeat him, stop his evil plan, and of course rescue his girlfriend, Twana. So this story isn't really known for anything really amazing. It serves as a backdrop for the different bosses and whatnot you encounter throughout the game. Cortex in this cut isn't really fleshed out as a character, and the cutscenes aren't really prevalent throughout the game at all. It just shows like the beginning and ending ones for the most part. So in all honesty, the story here isn't really anything in-depth or interesting. You can ignore it most of the time, because the core thing that you're going to be doing in this game is the platforming. That is by far the main centerfold for this entire game. So while, the story isn't really amazing, it does serve as an alright backdrop, and it does give you motivation to stop Cortex, especially to rescue your loved one.
What have I got?
Now, the graphics in this game aren't anything really amazing either, and I'm a huge Crash fan myself. It's one of my favorite franchises, especially in gaming. And as far as the platforming in this game goes, which we'll get into here in a little bit, this game does look dated in a lot of areas. Now, later Crash games supplement this way better, especially in Warped, but, I've already covered those two on the channel. Crash 2 and 3, I should say. But Crash 1, as far as the graphics go, they look alright. Crash's model looks alright. The different characters and whatnot you encounter look okay for the PS1. The different environments and backdrops that you encounter going through the jungles, or hog riding, or going through various mountains, volcanoes, different laboratories later in the game, they look alright, they're serviceable, they don't look ugly by any means. They certainly look a lot better than a lot of other PS1 games, but the blocky colors, palette, and the blocky design of a lot of different areas and obstacles and whatnot you encounter does kind of show nowadays. Even though there's some cool details in there, graphically, I hate to say the original Crash isn't really amazing in that department really at all. The music, however, is really good. It's really catchy, has a lot of good jungle vibes and beats, a lot of drums, a lot of different woodwind instruments playing and whatnot, kind of fitting like that tropical island theme. And of course the main Crash theme, which I think was remixed way better in later games, is still really good in this game. And the music as a whole is solid. This is definitely catchy and memorable music, though, especially that main menu theme, which you will get used to hearing all the time later on in the Crash series. So environmentally and graphically, this game doesn't really look amazing. It looks alright, granted, but it's just not great. And music-wise, it's good, actually. Crash pulls off the music really well. Now, like I mentioned before, the story isn't really much of a big deal in this game. It does provide much of a motivator, but it's not really a huge focus. The main thing you're going to be doing in Crash Bandicoot is obviously the platforming. Now, in later games, Crash, he has a far more diverse moveset, especially with like later gadgets and whatnot that you end up obtaining from Coco and various other moves that you can perform. But in this game, it's about as simple as you could possibly get. All you do is jump, you spin, and that's literally it. You jump and spin. This is by far the most basic of a platformer you could possibly get, especially in the Crash series. But the platforming and controls itself work fairly well. They're serviceable. You get used to them after a while. They're very weighty. You get used to the momentum that Crash has jumping over platforms. The spinning animation is really nice to see. It's really satisfying to just hear that sound effect and crunch whenever you knock an enemy to a box or something like that when you collect Bumper Fruit. And in all honesty, the controls work well, but they are very dated. In comparison to the Crash games, for how smooth Crash feels in those games to execute the slide jump, the double jump, the infinite spin dash, even pulling out the bazooka and whatnot, which is something that has nothing to do with platforming, feels so satisfying. This game's controls in a platformer, that's a huge deal. They're okay, but they're really tight. They feel almost like tank controls at times. And quite frankly, the momentum can carry over too much, making pinpoint platforming, which you'll be doing a lot, especially in the Fortress levels, which are some of my least favorite because of this. The momentum carries over. Crash falls very, very short sometimes if you don't jump at the right angle. It carries over so much that it just makes some platforming segments really frustrating when they shouldn't have to be. So while this game may get a pass in some departments for being an early PS1 game and a really good platformer overall, especially for the controls, it definitely has its issues. And again, controls are a big thing to keep an eye out for on platformers.
What have I got?
access stuff that you end up doing in this game that I think is executed really well, and really as a whole, there's not really much to really say. The boss fights in this game, for example, are fairly solid. Some of the fights can feel like really drug out or just really simplistic. Koala Khan, for example, you encounter in the volcano. You dodge rocks and whatnot, they get hard to avoid, and some of them he ends up throwing TNT crates at you as well. But you have to spin 3 rocks back at him 3 times. It's a pretty simple boss fight. The first official boss fight that you do outside of Papu Papu, which is completely easy, you jump over a giant stick 3 times and then jump on his head. That's literally all you do to beat him. It's a very simple fight. The first other official boss, though, of the mutants that you fight is Ripperoo, which you fight on top of a waterfall. And this fight isn't really hard as per se his attacks, because you have to hit nitro crates and have them explode on them while you're going over platforms that are going over the waterfall. This is one of those parts where the controls are going to be very much an issue, because they're so weighty and whatnot, and you don't have time for draw distance in order to go back on the platform. If you jump and miss, you're going to die many, many times in this fight from the controls, not really so much from Ripperoo attacking you. But I mean, all in all, the boss fights are alright. They're not really anything amazing. Crash isn't really known for their amazing bosses, but this first game, they're solid at the very least. And of course, like, you have excess stuff, you hit boxes, you collect Wumpa Fruit to get an extra life and all that other stuff. There's also these Tawana tokens that you can collect throughout the levels, in addition to, like, the somewhat solid boss fights that you can use to access a bonus level, which in these you can collect more lives, more Wumpa Fruit in order to gain more lives, that kind of thing. And the one thing that I found really odd about this too is that whenever you die on the bonus stage, you don't have the option to go back and replay it. And this is something that the Insane Trilogy, which is a remake of the 3 original Crash games, including Crash 1, they implemented this way better, where you could go back and try it again and again until you were satisfied. Which, I really wish they would have done that for the original, because it's just so degrading when you go through the trouble of collecting the tokens, but you fail on the bonus level, and you can't go and get anything. And the worst part about the original Crash in this case, too, is that you can't save any other way, unless you go and see Tawana in these bonus levels. So if you die before you make it there, sorry, buddy, you're going to have to reboot your PS2 or PS1, whatever you're playing it on, and go right back into it, which really sucks. And that's something that this game has a lot of limitations for, especially for this series, which is disappointing to see for Crash, but at the same time, this was later fixed in other games, so all in all, it's not too bad. There is one notorious glitch, though. I believe it's in the first or second Rolling Boulders level that you go through, that if you go to Tawana in order to save your progress in one of these levels, they glitches your game, and you can't save or progress any further without being able to save. So basically, your save data is done, which is really strange, but it's something that I thought I'd tell you guys if you're ever going to play the original Crash, or if you have played it. I'm sure you guys know about this at some point. But, I mean, all in all, with, like, the excess stuff, like the boss fights being alright, and some of the extra stuff that they try to implement with the bonus levels being okay, this game definitely has some obvious issues. All in all, Crash Bandicoot 1 on the PS1, while it may not be the most amazing platformer that you'll ever play, it's definitely a solid game on the PS1, and it's a great start to the Crash franchise. While, you know, the story isn't really anything amazing, the platforming is definitely dated, and a lot of the bonus stuff they tried to implement in here, including the save states, my gosh, are implemented really horribly in some departments. Crash overall is a very solid game and a very fun platformer to go into and traverse on a simple journey in order to go and rescue your girlfriend at the end. So, you know, what could be better about a platformer like that? So all in all, Crash 1, despite its issues, is a very good game, and I highly recommend you guys go and check it out. It may not be the definitive Crash experience. I highly recommend you guys go and check out Crash 2 and Warped for that. But all in all, check this one out to see the start of the series, although I won't blame you if you decide to put it down after a while. Either way, guys, this has been it for today's review of Crash Bandicoot 1. In the comment section down below, let me know what you guys think about Crash Bandicoot, the series, or this first game based off what you see here, from what you've played, or what you heard from other people. Let me know all your thoughts on Crash 1 in the comments down below. And if you guys enjoyed this video, give it a like and subscribe to the channel if you guys want to catch more videos like this in the future. At the time that this video is going up, it won't be too long before we start our Kingdom Hearts marathon, so keep in mind, first 5 videos in June are going to be the first 5 Kingdom Hearts games, so look forward to that. But until next time, Nostalgics, this is Ryan from the Nostalgia Factor saying, keep on gaming.